Yeah, that's basically what he told me in person in the Stage 2 finals as well. He said that he kind of sees himself as a sort of gatekeeper, right? Towards the bottom of the standings in the Quake Pro League itself, but strong enough to essentially rebuke anyone who's trying to get in. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he'll be able to do the same again today with CNZ, a man who was in the Pro League himself, got knocked out in the previous stage by Sparty, who we saw play earlier today, and now he's going up against Xron.
Yeah, CNZ was one of those players as well, just at the time when we were talking about how much promise he was showing, and then we were all a little bit surprised to see him drop out, particularly against Sparty, who wasn't showing anything particularly strong at that period of time. So I actually, as much as I like Xron, I really enjoy watching him. I do fear for him against CNZ in terms of that kind of matchup.
I'd actually agree. I mean, this is one of the things I was going to bring into play here, is actually looking at even just the veto that we saw there as well. This is a whole lot more worrying, I'd say, for Xron than it's ever been before, right? This is a position now that he's new to, back in relegation. They're up against CNZ, and I think he actually has the opportunity to really prove he is an Estonian emperor. He can come out, he can lock it down. He was good when we saw him in the past. It just felt like he fell at some of the hurdles that were thrown at him. Whereas for Xron, he's only been performing at big hurdles. He's only been taking map wins off opponents that you're like, well, he shouldn't beat them, but he has been. When it comes to more domestic games, like you were saying, Ryan, for some reason, there's a disconnect. He's struggling where he should be flourishing.
I mean, the reality is we've used the term like redemption earlier, and CNZ of all players, surely he has to be feeling that, because by all accounts, he should have not been relegated in Stage 2. It is the, I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. I really hate to be a broken record, but we're talking about relegation matches. The horrifically unfortunate self-ring out that we saw from CNZ on Molten Falls when he had really all the chips. He had everything, and it was so close to the end of the map. That really was like the giant turning point that just caused everything to fall apart. But what a mistake that can be when it comes to like the consequences and being relegated and missing out on an entire stage of Pro League. That, I'm sure, probably didn't feel very good. But now he has an opportunity to redeem himself and just correct that massive wrong. I'm actually quite excited for him. I'm excited to see if he can do it. And if he can, surely there's got to be the world's largest sigh of relief that he's been able to get back in there.
Well, let's find out if he's going to be able to then. Another series is on our hands. Our third challengers come back here, and this one has a lot of weight to it. CNZ, can he re-qualify, boys? Flea, Ryan, take it away. It's going to be a banger. It's a best of 5 between Xron and CNZ.
Yeah, starting things off on Awoken, but as we do so, I also very quickly want to point out, with last time these two players went up against each other in Stage 2, it was actually CNZ who beat Xron 3-0, Ryan, so that very nicely ties into your point that he's absolutely not safe. And immediately, though, very aggressive push from Xron, doing a good amount of damage. CNZ, railable, manages to stack himself up, but still, this is going to be difficult for Xron no matter what.
I mean, this one's a battle of the poster boys, isn't it? Doomslayer versus Ranger. Xron's going to immediately snatch that frag away, and it just comes down to that skill of the Doomslayer on a map like this. That double jump makes such a huge difference for just navigating that center point of the map, some of the absolute most important times to be at. But early on, you have plenty of time to kind of lick your wounds and recover. And you mentioned it before, the previous success means that CNZ, definitely a man on a mission, I think. But as I'm checking out Xron at this stage, looking for an early play. A rocket duel's going to come out 1v1. Neither player is going to be super unhappy with that. Xron has the light to retreat back to. Heavy's about to spawn, but yeah, looks very much like they're going for, oh dear, yeah, ouch.
Yep, that's the power of the Ranger Orb, of course. Can do so much damage up close, and Xron is in trouble. Out come the Berserk Punches. I think he needed just one more to clean it up, but CNZ will do just enough damage to take down his opponent and put himself one frag in the lead. This is a matchup that comes down a lot to mobility. Doomslayer, he's got the double jump, works really nicely on a map like Awoken because there's so many of those little jumps and shortcuts you can do with it. But on the other hand, CNZ, he's got the orb. And there's a few really nice angles where you can use the orb to get through the hole in the wall, either shotgun or through the teleporter even. Shotgun's gonna come out, CNZ really low, and Xron just horrendously aggressive. Shotgun is all he needs to tie it right back up.
Crispy use of a tricky double jump there, though. The strength of Doomslayer's double jump, not just for mobility, but for just making rockets very tricky and awkward to land. And that last minute kind of turn to the side and Ron with a crispy little double jump to just make it miss. SSG in hand too. Nice little bit of a weapon combos, I suppose, but it's a cute little rail for Hron. Making sure that his armor is constantly topped up too, which is really important. Speaking of which, there's another one. And he's consistently more stacked up than CNZ. CNZ is in a slightly better position to shut this down. We're going to get some of that rail damage and Hron using the rail cooldown to be aggressive. That's going to be a miss. But that one certainly won't be. A green light to go in for the orb for an easy pickup just in time for the heavy. But there's such an even split between the two items, looking likely that Hron's going to get there first.
Now it's all up to CNZ. Can he punish the mega pickup? Nope, he will not. Xron manages to dodge and dive out of the room only to take a hit right there at Tribald and another one. CNZ of course knows that Xron spawned over towards the LG side of the map, so he doesn't have rail just yet. And CNZ is just punishing that mercilessly. 3 rails in a row on Xron off spawn. He isn't flourishing right now, Xron. He's just surviving. That's the only thing on his mind right now. Gotta get some more health, gotta get a bit of armor. And now CNZ using that orb beautifully just to get himself up onto the Mega instantly, stealing yet another major item. Xron though looking slightly worse for wear, but still doing some damage in return.
It was a very safe play near Mega. You know, rather than just trying to jump in and being the one that takes it away and risking a massive fight, just holding an angle and getting the rail instead. And he's hit a couple of them, enough to make the stack kind of even. Easy to say that though when there's a heavy just about to spawn that CNZ happily snaps up. Ooh, the rail combined with the mega pickup. That's pretty important for Xron. It means that he's no longer going to be kind of the one that's behind. And he's looking to get some of those free angles now, back and forth. Some LG to come through as well, but Xron's going to run out of armor. That rail, that would have been painful right there, but it was so close to hitting. Not quite though.
Yeah.
Players don't
Not
get their mark.
quite, indeed. Rockets flying around CNZ's face, looking to deal some defensive damage. The rail's gonna come through.
Ooh.
Heavy is up. No way for CNZ to get on top of the item. He has to get out. Xron right now in a really good position. He's got a pretty good read on his opponent as well. CNZ just looking for some scraps. A few health bubbles here. Some more there. That's a good rocket with Xron. He isn't going to sit back and let this happen. He's just gonna barge right in, tying things back up. And now, 10 seconds to go before heavy. Xron's got a good idea for CNZ spawns. He's gonna position himself ready to take the next item. Oh, that's a ballsy push!
Yeah, and that push started off from the early double jump that, understandably, CNZ was more than ready for. Doomslayer stuck in the air for so long. The Mega comes back just in time! And he gets the rail instead. That was a close one, Flea.
8 points of health. One more machine gun bullet would have changed the entire outcome of that fight. But Xron, he managed to dodge that last shot, pick up Mega. The rails are looking so solid. A third one will seal the deal. The Estonian player will fall once more, and Xron is rewarded with the heavy for his troubles. Will probably lose out on the Mega though. Now it's just important. Can he punish this? LG is looking good. CNZ Mega completely burned off. Will even go down before being able to get around the corner. Xron is kicking things up a notch.
The rocket launcher spawn does mean that Xron has to be careful with his push though. At the HP he was working on, one miracle rocket would have spelled disaster potentially, because it's all about the momentum. You look at the timing too. If he died there, Heavy's just about to spawn, Mega as well. Would have been unfavourable for lack of a better term, but pretty even split on the stack so far. Xron looking to get some of that free damage on Mega, but happy to let it go. He's not going to push too hard here. We have about just over 3 minutes left on the clock for this map, and Xron with 3 frags in the lead. That is more than enough time to play this defensive game, sit here, listen out, and just try and pepper it down. His range defensive play really has been bringing him through this time. That is a delicious rocket.
And of course, Xron definitely doesn't have a bad champion to play the defensive runaway game. The double jump opens up so much of the map to him. Hang on, looks like he might even be able to get the frag, at least steals the Mega. Xron definitely doesn't want to go full defensive just yet. Can he land the midi? No, it's actually CNZ who will claim himself the frag. He's low though. He's low. Xron could easily turn this into a refrag or at least steal a major item, but the rail is going to be punishing. Another one, both players available right now.
Very concerned for Xron. That one fight with 2 rockets that just, by all accounts, you feel like he thought they should have done more damage than they did. CNZ was so weak and he just couldn't even force a trade of all things. But now, look at the stack difference. CNZ, the pressure, not only being able to get his basic stack up, but looking for those rail angles, looking for opportunities to keep Xron considerably weaker. And he's so close now to being able to make this one count. CNZ in a way better position for Heavy in every time. Wait a minute, the chase! The orb play, Xron showing tons of respect. He doesn't even want to challenge it, but it looks like his hand will be forced all the same.
Yep, CNZ definitely saw and took the opportunity, predicting the spawn perfectly. Xron just pushing in just to get the LG. Risky play from both these players. CNZ makes the wise decision of backing up. He knows he's got the Mega behind him. He knows he's still got 2 more minutes to work with. He absolutely shouldn't risk it. And that's exactly what he ends up doing. Retreats, takes a safe spot, collects Mega, now Heavy as well. Now the pressure. A little bit more on Xron because 2 minutes of running away gonna be dangerous. Excellent LG right there. Xron just pushed straight back up against the wall, and the machine gun finish will tie things right back up 6-6. Xron, it's extremely important that he stabilizes right now, and eating rockets with his face is not the way to do it.
For these really tricky fights near Heavy. There's always a hard angle to hit when they're holding the back, so it's little of their model is actually showing in that situation, but even to call. Actually, almost complete even split on stack. I say that before the Tribolt rears its ugly head. Thankfully in their banana there's plenty of stuff to recharge with. An opening rocket, or rail, sorry, CNZ able to force them away. Here we go, looking for some of that damage too. Xron very much Flea on the back burner here. He has a little bit of armor, but he tried so hard to reduce the rail angle, but CNZ just in the right place at the right time.
CNZ is playing a nearly perfect game right now. He is doing damage in all the right places. Almost every single time Xron makes a jump across towards that center armor, CNZ peppers him with some Tribolt. Every time Xron tries to go for the Heavy or the Mega, C is there to land at least a rail and take away a chunk of that additional health. So even though he's outstacked right now, he's playing a really good game, just waiting for the perfect opportunity, and there it is. It presents itself perfectly, and he can steal away the Heavy, even going as far as setting up a bit of a trap. Xron, of course, knows exactly where he is, looking for a way out. Neither player will connect the rail, so that doesn't open up any significant portion of the map for either one. Xron now doing most of the damage.
There's so much pressure to hit these rails on both sides now, especially with that Mega that's just been taken. 3 seconds away on this Heavy, of which CNZ's in a good position for, but the rail fight comes through again. Actually, no. Looks like Xron's going to push on. Such little damage has been dealt either side, but look at CNZ's armor. All caught swapping weapons though, taking a bit more damage than he's definitely comfortable with, and he's looking for more rail angles. Can he find it? Xron, not going to make it easy. Oh, the teleport is used. I was a little bit worried after that one, but he still manages to soak it up.
That could have gone so wrong for
rail.
CNZ. That could have spelled the end right there. Good defensive rocket though. Now Xron, no opportunity to stick around and go for the Heavy himself. He even shouldn't be there right now. Manages to make his way over to the LG side of the map, but he's got to be careful. I do believe he's still railable. CNZ is looking for the angle. Xron does manage to secure himself a little bit of armor. Mega up in a few seconds. Both players know this. CNZ, he wants to punish this so bad. Lands a beautiful rail as well. Another one. Xron on the back foot right now. Sliver of health left.
And it's the worst time to be this week too, because there's almost nothing to recharge your batteries with. Another rocket! And he gives up the rail angle too. Played up until the final moment, CNZ, just the discipline. And we haven't even touched on that. And what you can absolutely describe CNZ with in that position was just, he waited for the moment. He knows he's forcing you to be uncomfortable. He's forcing you to move. And when you do, he'll punish you for it. Look at the difference in armors, Flea. 16-6.
Oh wow, that's indeed a fair bit. I think CNZ, he played this so well, especially the second part of the map. His reactive plays were amazing, and I think that's mainly what won him the map. Because when it came down to aim, Xron was also hitting plenty of shots, but CNZ was just consistently taking these fights from a better position with a better backup plan, an easier way to get out, and then he just managed to set himself up for so many of the item spawns that Xron ultimately just ended up getting shut out of so many of these. Just look at the heavy, right? And that's just in part because of the champion picks as well. 10 more heavies secured for CNZ has a lot to do with the fact that he's playing Ranger. So he's got that escape button, that orb, ready to go. He can go through the hole in the wall, he can go straight back up anywhere he wants. Whereas if Xron is caught there in a bad position at the wrong time, he's basically stuck and has nowhere to run to. So CNZ perfectly maneuvered himself, building upon his champion's strengths, and it just was too much for Xron to handle.
That one fight that we just saw, that's where things started to get a little bit nerve-wracking because, I mean, by all accounts, I mean, yeah, there were a couple of instances where they did miss, but if even one of those rockets hit their mark, Xron would have just got another frag, and that kind of would have been it. Just continue that string of momentum that he's working on. But what happened instead was CNZ somehow kind of snatched that fight away and used all of that momentum to mount a comeback, which ultimately led to, you know, just how close things were up until that final second. It's crazy to think just how bad one fight can go and the consequences that are led on from it. But it's the kind of thing that if you're Xron, you kind of just need to forget about it. With the nature of a map that goes as close as it does, you can't really rely too much on hindsight. There's potentially plenty more maps left to go here.
I'm surprised that Tribolt wasn't up there among the accuracies, because I felt like CNZ used that almost as much as Rocket. He used it defensively all the time, he used it offensively just to deal some damage onto the Mega Health as well. And of course, Tribolt is difficult to use, but if all of them land, that's 115 damage. That's more than a direct rocket to the face, so a very valuable weapon that sometimes is still underused, but clearly CNZ is very comfortable using every tool in his kit.
We've seen from Xron though, he can often say that confidence can be a little bit of a killer for him, because when he's feeling it, his aim can be out of this world. Like the stuff that he pulls off and the skill that he shows in a competitive setting is always there, and you know it's hard to deny a player like Xron. But of all the players here, CNZ is one to be worried about. That's for sure, especially not even talking about previous results, but just how well he plays. I just can't stop thinking about the fact that, by all accounts, if things just went the way they normally do, CNZ likely would have stayed in Pro League. And now this is all about a very hungry and, I can only assume, motivated CNZ who's trying to correct that mistake. And the way he's playing so far, he is well on track for.
Oh, absolutely, because CNZ, even when he was still in the Pro League, he beat players like Base, Avak and Xron in the past, so clearly he deserves to be among the very best in the world, and he's very eager to prove himself worthy now in the Stage 3 finals too. Starting off on his perspective, it's Ruins. We're gonna see two pretty fast champions, the Anarchy of course with the air control up against the Strahd with the Crouch Light. Immediately a bit of a fight. Excellent rail from Xron. Using the peeker, can he find 38 more damage? That's a bit of overkill, but surely it'll do. Xron, first one to get a frag, 1-0 in the lead, 40 seconds in.
It's so easy sometimes to talk about how much of a difference movement will make on a champion-to-champion basis on Ruins, because it's so wide, but I mean, this is one of those maps where both players have access to a champion that can kind of fly around the map. Looks like they're trying to go for some rockets now. Bit of a tricky 1v1. Oh, the second that one hits for 100, you know you're in a good place. But jumps back up on the jump pad, a little bit too eager to finish the job. And very patient CNZ is lying in wait with an LG in hand. And I mean, look at his POV. He had very little ammo left, and it was kind of the only weapon he had access to. Any other weapon, I think, Xron probably would have got the frag there.
Yeah, Xron definitely made a mistake going right back up, because Heavy was spawning just behind him too. He could have waited CNZ, there was no chance that any reasonable man would drop down there, so Xron could have just waited and picked up the Heavy, especially because even in the fight just before that, Xron's LG aim looked really shaky, so that was such a risky push for him, but this time things will work out a bit better as he secures himself another frag with the rocket, and he's got a nice rotation going on now. Mega, 15 seconds later, Heavy. Xron's got both of them to his name.
but more of that early damage. And we're going to see a fight breaking out near Mega. CNZ, a tricky position, actually.
Oh?
We're going to like CNZ. I can only assume he hasn't got a rail in that situation or something.
A shotgun neither, I don't think, because that would have been two excellent weapons to take down the Peeker. Xron, so aggressive! 4 points of health for CNZ. Xron, are you going to rush this? He decides to go up the bounce pad instead. The aggressive push would have almost definitely gotten him the frag right there, but he decided to favor picking up some weapons first, leaving it as it is, 2-2, remaining the status quo.
Ron looking for some little cheeky bonus damage there with the drive-by rail straight in their teleporter, but again, it's just when you watch CNZ play that there's so much patience with this guy. How he's so content to kind of just let you run yourself around a corner into death. Even in these high-octane fights, there's no fast, rapid movement. There's no crazy little flicks and stuff that you would normally see from like a Wenger or something. It's just everything he does seems so efficient, doesn't it, Flea?
Absolutely, but I do have to say that a big part of the reason why he's a frag up right now is because Xron is kind of handing it to him in a certain way. So many misplays, so many mistakes from the Ukrainian player, putting himself in places he really shouldn't be, and that of course works so nicely for CNZ's patient, disciplined play, as you just said, to take advantage of that. Rockets barreling down CNZ, out comes the injection, and another frag will go his way. 4-2, can he find some damage off on the respawn? Decides to back out of there. LG's coming through. Xron positioning himself perhaps a bit too close to the doorway. 5 points of health left. We've seen a lot of Peeker damage come through with just the Peeker gun, right? Earlier on Mega as well, that was like 100 points of damage.
I think we've seen more damage from Peeker's blasters in like 2 uses here than we have the rest of the day at all.
Oh, 1
So yeah,
point
die
of
hard.
health.
Die hard, my dudes. But oh, that rail wasn't even necessary, but
Not at all.
needs to stay safe just in case. You can never account.
It was still a good decision from Xron to go there, because he at least managed to deny the heavy, and if CNZ had picked up heavy while Xron was out and about with just 1 point of health, that would have set him up for more damage down the line, long term in the game, than I think just taking that one loss to deny a very important item. So Xron not looking too shabby right now. He's just gonna rush right in to contest this. Will take heavy again, but this is going to be difficult. Rockets just aren't doing their job. And CNZ even has the injection ready to go, getting himself out of that situation clean and sound.
I love just going in for that extra jump near the jump pad just to guarantee a nice meaty little ledge grab. It's so tricky on that that light armor location. You just don't want to give up any kind of free rail, especially when you're this weak. Check out that he's actually out of LG ammo too, so he's got to be kind of careful with his weapons here. 5-minute warning is triggered, and here we go, just to get some of that all-important ammo. Double up for the hourglasses. That injection is absolutely saving his skin in some of these confrontations, but it's like you kind of talked about, just the way CNZ carries himself, watching it from his POV is really interesting, because he's against a Xron who is playing at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's the nature of a crowd slide that they will play that fast. But CNZ, he's just not being overwhelmed by it. He's not being intimidated. And there's so much confidence. He knows that Xron's going to come speeding around that corner, or that he's going to be, free for this rail angle. And it's just so calm and collected. Even right now, like, just waiting for the moment, getting the rocket.
Yeah.
Picking some delicious rockets, by the way. And now, so content with this rail fight. A nice little ledge grab there from Xron. That could have been very scary indeed, because then you're stuck in that horrific position where it's teleporter or not.
It's especially impressive considering the map we're on, because this is Ruins, which is notoriously difficult to play when you're a light champion, because these small armors are so important to the lights that if you ever get out of control, you have to resort to picking them up, and they are in difficult locations. If you go for one of them, it's so easy to get stuck and get fragged instantly, and as I even finished saying that, CNZ adds another 2 frags to his score. 4 points in the lead right now. Xron most definitely struggling. What can he still do? 3.5 minutes left.
There's time. Absolutely, you've got time to make something happen. But with just the way CNZ is approaching this and how he's had full control over this map, if there's a Mega, he's on it. And not only is he on it to take it, but he's in a position to catch Xron, who is always trying to challenge in some way. Kind of like right now, the Mega's in play again, 2 seconds time. timing should be CNZ's at the very least, and he's just looking for an opportunity to get some more bonus damage. Look at the patience here. He's consistently just looking to spring these traps. The safety of the teleporter is going to make it a little bit more free. Wonderful stuff, but it has put him in great position to get the heavy at the very least, and the rails, they just add up so much. And I got to mention it, Flea, we haven't seen Xron hit a crazy amount of rails either.
No, not at all. It's definitely CNC doing most of the damage, and just the reactive plays again, similar to what we saw him win map 1 that was awoken earlier. He's doing the exact same thing. Look at that. He just predicts where Xron's gonna be at, listens out carefully, and then just takes advantage of it just like that. He knows that Xron's gonna go through the teleporter, waits for him with a rail, lands that shot, and then shuts him down because he knows that Xron is going for those small armors on that side of the map. So beautiful reads, beautiful reactive plays coming out of CNZ, and it's absolutely helping him win this map.
You know a player is making perfect reads when it looks like the two of them are just in voice comms and CNZ is telling him what to do. You know what I mean? Like, that is, we're at a point now where CNZ is consistent. Even now, he just makes the perfect call. You're going to jump down to LG. Wow. You probably want that weapon, right? Good read, but, you know, my read's better.
I mean, that's... Look, and again, off the spawn, and now, I mean, Xron, with just 2 minutes left to go, there's very little that he can still do. He's just rushing forward right now, hoping for a miracle frag to build upon. But I think that he's already starting to think about how to approach the next map, what he has to do differently, because clearly something isn't working out, and he's throwing himself at CNZ over and over and over just to run into that wall of pain.
And CNZ knows this map is over, so he's going for some of those just extra little bits of flair that we otherwise haven't really seen from him, like those cool little rocket jumps off the spawn to maybe get a nice little bit of pressure that Xron once more can't really do anything about. He stopped moving. Like, he knows this map is more than over, and this is that moment to start thinking about more maps. We've talked about in the past that Xron, he has been a little bit prone to, like, when this pressure starts to really ramp up, kind of get a little bit overwhelmed by it, I suppose. It's kind of happening right now, and I do worry about Xron at this stage. CNZ, he's just riding so much momentum, Flea. Do you even think it's possible that Xron can get a map if things are going this way?
It's very difficult to say. If Xron is going to be a one to get a map, he will have to start things off quickly, get himself some frags, and make sure that it's CNZ who has to chase him down. The most important thing, I think, for the Ukrainian plane moving forward is just that he stops giving up so many opportunities, because that's what lost him the start of the game. Yes, CNZ was playing a great map of his own, really reactionary, very defensive, but Xron just kept feeding into that, right? Just remember, think back about that fight towards the top of the bounce pad near Heavy. Xron is in the lead. Xron has got Heavy right behind him. Xron's got the better stack, more weapons, but his LG is shaky, and what does he still decide to do? Go right back up into the lightning gun of an opponent that's waiting, that's faster, that's difficult to hit, and he just throws it away. And there were several frags that ended up that way, so I think Xron really has to just collect himself again moving forward.
It almost looks a little bit like confidence is an issue here, and because, like, almost in the decisions to just go so aggressive all the time. And, you know, we watched almost 90% of that map was from CNZ's point of view. And how many frags happened where we are just in a situation where CNZ, he just sets up shop, digs his heels in, waits for Xron to just fall into his hands because he knows that he's going to come around a corner, or he knows he's going to push now, or he knows he's going to go for that item. I mean, look at how many of these different frags, like, granted, they're not all going to go in his favor, but how many frags CNZ is the one that's not even moving before the fight even breaks out? Because he's comfortable. He's already in his position, and then the fight breaks out, and that's all there is to it. He's just playing it incredibly smart and patient, and it just feels like Xron is having a hard time. He is not able to kind of force that speed down CNZ's throat. There has to be something else here.
Yeah. I mean, you saw it, right? Xron was up 2-1, and then the next 3 frags that put CNZ in the lead by 2 were just Xron basically handing them on a silver platter. Just pushing in extremely aggressively over and over again up the bounce pad, just jumping through the doorway trying to chase CNZ down when he's being blasted by Tribal. Then he had, like, what, 50 points of health left, and he's just like, you know what, I'm still gonna push through and hope that the Tribal doesn't get me. You can't take these kinds of chances at this level, because it is going to backfire more often than not. So CNZ played that extremely intelligently, and you can clearly see it's paying him in dividends. 57% Rocket. I think that also comes to show that he played such a defensive game, letting his opponent come to him and then just push them right back with the Rockets, and then 47% Rail to boot as well. So Xron struggling so badly right now.
It says a lot about CNZ's playstyle and ability, where he is able to consistently, way consistently, be in a better position than Astrog is on Ruins. You know what I mean? How many times over the course of the weeklies do we watch Ruins of Sarnath and Strog makes it through the pick? And it's always the crouch slider that's in that position first. They're the one that kind of dictates the pace. But we're going into Molten Falls now. It should be, lineup-wise, looks like Xron's going in with the Visor in the lobby, so it should be Visor versus BJ. But, I mean, it's a refreshing map. Normally I would disagree with players in these kind of competitive settings, kind of like, for lack of a better term, kind of giving up by the end of the map. We know Xron was kind of standing still there. But I really think that there's just so much here that is not working for Xron. He needs to give himself a breather. He needs to give himself some time. Well, look, if the map's lost and there's no chance in hell you're going to win it, that time to just forget about the map, it's done, let it rock, and then just recover, right? Just take that time out. He clearly needs a timeout, so any kind of timeout he can give himself, I'm all for it with how things are going so far.
If anything, though, I do like Xron's champion pick this time around, because I was a little worried that if it were turned into another situation where his opponent takes the lead and there's nothing he can do about it, well, this time around the roles are kind of reversed. If it's CNZ that loses the lead and you have to chase as BJ, a champion that's very, very difficult to just catch your opponent with, CNZ might be in trouble. But Xron, he's got the Visor, he's got the piercing sight, that could help him a lot to just trace down his opponent and catch them off guard in a bad situation. So even if he does lose the edge, if he does drop a through fags at the start, he still has a pretty good opportunity, I think, to chase his opponent back down.
But this is that tricky position where Xron has consistently been, as we've said before at the start of the day, he's been the kind of player that, and he even said to you, right, that kind of gatekeeper style, the player that can keep others from getting into Pro League, but when it comes to Pro League, he's definitely inconsistent. Is this the moment where that changes? Because the fact that his opponent is CNZ is where it becomes a lot trickier. Because of all of these players coming from challengers, like CNZ, straight up, he's not a challenger level player. He is a Pro League level player. And he proved that in Stage 2. Yeah. And he's riding so much momentum now. I don't think he could be in any better shape right now to make his way back into Pro League than how he's playing right now and who he's against. I would be very concerned if I was Xron, and I am concerned for Xron.
I mean, I mentioned it earlier, right? When CSZ was in the Pro League back in Stage 2, he beat the likes of Base, who had a tremendous showing at the last LAN. He beat Avak, he even beat Xron 3-0, which he might even be able to repeat right now, since he's already 2-0 up, so things are definitely in his favor. So what you said is entirely correct. This is not a challenger player. This is not someone who just made his way up through the challenger leagues, a semi-pro who's like, okay, I'm gonna try my hand and see how I end up doing. No, this is someone who has proven himself at the highest levels of play, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Xron can do anything about this, as we should be about to jump into the final map. Here we go, this is it, this could be the trio for CNZ. It is Molten Falls, BJ versus Visor.
Yeah, I was going to mention that the map has started. We missed about 10 seconds, but that's alright. Oh, Xron was looking for those mid-airs almost immediately, but very smart to not over-push in that situation. One missed shot and one overextended push with a dual-wielding BJ, and there's hell to pay for it. But as we now 3 seconds away from heavy spawning, definitely too close for comfort if you're in Xron's shoes. Needs to prioritize some stack, but oh my god! He tries to give himself a better position for it, and CNZ just bullies his way through anyway.
This is not looking good at all. Xron again going on the bounce pad, taking a lot of shaft to the face right there. Luckily for him, managing to get out with a bit of overstack even, but no armor to his name, so he's gonna be hunting, setting up for the heavy. Both players probably have a pretty good idea of when he's going to spawn. It's around 10 seconds out. Rockets looking good from CNZ, and Xron a sitting duck after taking that 80-something damage rocket. CNZ, he knows when heavy is, but still looking to do some more damage and extend his lead.
Yeah, there's no way Hrom's going to challenge that, so he opts to back out and just go towards the Mega. A decision you can 100% get behind, seeing fresh off the spawn. I mean, what's he going to fight with? A machine gun? Nothing. But in this position, that does mean there is an even split on the two items, so you do wonder how that's going to fare through. CNZ with the early lead. Unfortunately, there are signs of the other maps coming through. You know, you said Xron needs to establish himself early and make CNZ the one that kind of has to come to him. Already, we are not in that situation.
Yeah, and that is only going to make things even more difficult for the Ukrainian player, even though he has a bit of a stack advantage because he also got the heavy to his name. CNZ is just being a ghost right now, and that is putting Xron on edge 100% because he knows, I haven't heard my opponent in a while. Where is he? I hear no shots, no pre-fires, no jumps, no bounce pads, no teleporters, and nothing. Completely silent. He knows that CNZ is just trying to play the defensive game and set up a trap, and it's kind of getting to Xron. Now, luckily for him, he still has that piercing sight ability, but of course, you only have that up every 40 seconds or so, so a lot of mind games, strategic thinking going on right now as well.
Some good rockets actually from Xron. CNZ just unable to hit his shots, and he was punished majorly for it. Thing is, it happened kind of early on during the rotation of the items, so CNZ, again, having to become that ghost for a second time in a row, I think. One ambush in this position, especially with the piercing sight ready to rock. This is a pretty bad situation for CNZ. There are health bubbles, but if Xron can start a fight soon, that's only going to last so much. Chooses to be aggressive. The piercing sight does give him eyes all over. He gets a bit of presence down towards Heavy, but not enough to really write home about just yet. The stacks remain pretty similar here. Nice rail from Xron. And if Xron can keep his stack nice and high and hit those rails, hang on a minute, speaking of which, he's going to press the advantage. Watch out for the ring out, almost, but not quite. And they trade. The fact that CNZ made that as close as it was and forced to trade in that position, and he gets a decent spawn, a whole bunch of armor, the rocket launcher ready to go. Unfortunately, those missed rails are going to give Xron a completely free Heavy. But yeah, all things considered, that fight for CNZ could have got a whole lot worse.
Absolutely, the trade was about the best that he could hope for, as Xron steals Heavy off spawn, but he's lacking weapons right now. Now CNZ, he got the rocket and rail off spawn, but he doesn't have LG yet, and Xron knows this. He knows that when it comes down to these medium range fights, he has got every tool in the box where his opponent is lacking. Doesn't seem like he really tried to deny the weapon though, which is of course very difficult to do on a map the size of Molten, and is instead going to content himself by just picking up the armor. Nice rail from CNZ right there as he picks up the Mega as well. And Xron, it really just doesn't know, or doesn't seem like he knows how to approach this. Kinda just wandering around the map almost aimlessly, it feels. Doesn't take any sort of a commanding spot in the center, doesn't hunt his opponent down, but is just kind of just wandering around, hoping for the best. And CNZ, as we mentioned earlier, extremely disciplined, patient, putting himself in center map, raining down the pain from above. And even though Xron takes Heavy, it's the Estonian player that's looking really solid right now.
One of the biggest issues, and you kind of touched on it with Xron, the way he's moving around the map, is that he has no presence. There's no presence around here at all. When you watch CNZ, he's always in a good position. He's always in like a rail angle, or there is a situation where he can scatter the rockets. Xron, he's trying to kind of play very reactively when he sees him, but fundamentally, again, CNZ is the one that just seems more comfortable. And I think comfort is one of the key words here, that Xron looks pretty uncomfortable in general here. Going through the jump pad, and he's going to horse on the back foot for another time. CNZ with a deny on the light, back up to a nice and normal stack. Xron, if he sticks around for this Heavy, he's really dancing with the devil at the moment.
And that fight at Mega, that just shows everything that I've been talking about. Xron just seems to not even be thinking about where his opponent is. He just goes up the bounce pad and away is the LG. Just again, right here. This time though, CNZ caught out with the tribal, taking a lot of damage. The Ukrainian might actually be able to do something, but he decides to dip out of the situation early. Of course, he still has plenty of time, so I do support Xron's decision not to go highly aggressive just yet. He knows he's got time to work with, but the damage has to come right there, right now, as he takes down CNZ. Still, one frag behind, but this could be the start of a comeback.
But there's potentially a lot of work for Xron to contribute towards just one single frag with how CNZ plays that missed rail. Unfortunately, would have been a good start had it not missed. He's going to lay that pressure on. CNZ should be going down, but the defensive rocket, CNZ giving him no angles to work with at all. And the piercing sight, CNZ showing so much respect. The piercing sight is a threat.
Xron unable to land the kill shot that would have tied things up. CNZ, of course, heard the piercing sight being used and positioned himself perfectly to avoid the damage. It wasn't gonna show his face one way or the other, just waiting it out. And now Xron, definitely with the stack advantage, positioning himself ready for Mega already, using the piercing sight, so he knows exactly where his opponent is, but can he do anything with it? I think he noticed that CNZ might be making his way over to the Mega. There we go, that's an excellent shot. The Estonian is railable. Xron, he's gotta hurry right now. Heavy will be his for the taking as well. CNZ, not comfortable taking any fight without armor. He just wants to wait, get himself stacked up a little bit more, and Xron is chasing him down.
Ooh, that
Oh
rocket
no!
absolutely drained that fat stack Ron was working with. And Ron, I mean, if he reached that position there like 1 second earlier, he would have even have had a rail angle. So it was losing out on the angle and taking what was pretty much a direct rocket. However, Ron doing the right thing by playing the long game, and the rockets are really good. Misses the rail. Hang on a second. He has to be really careful missing shots like that. CNZ not allowing Ron to simply bully him off the map. He is very weak himself, but that fight was a blink away from going pear-shaped and giving Xron the comeback he was looking for.
Xron needed to use shotgun, not rail. Shotgun would have gotten him the frag right there, but he probably wasn't quite sure of how low his opponent was. And so he went for the rail instead, and CNZ again managing to escape the clutches of death. And he was so close too. It was actually a situation where Xron using the piercing side backfired, because CNZ was about to turn the corner when Xron used it. CNZ heard it and he was like, oh, there you are. Let me just back up. So it kinda messed up Xron's game plan right there.
He's going for the chase. This is a tournament and Pro League life chase. Just a quick FYI for those that might be new. Relegation match. If CNZ wins this map, he will be relegating Xron and removing him from Pro League, taking his place. A lot rides on this 1 minute and 10 seconds, and if you're in Xron's shoes, he has to be sweating bullets.
Still a minute to go for one frag. Absolutely plenty of time. The rockets need to be good. Xron getting pushed right back, manages to stay in the map. He needs
That's a tournament rail right here. The tournament rail.
He gets it. Xron tying things up with a minute left to go. Beautiful shot right there. If he had missed that, that would have been the end of his Quake Pro League life. But luckily for him, he's still hanging on. With 40 seconds left to go, things are all tied up. Hang on, another aggressive fight. Xron out of ammo for the LG. Needs just a tiny bit more shotgun damage. Can he find it? CNZ down below. There we go, the Ukrainian putting himself in the lead once again.
You talked about the shotgun and we finally see it when it absolutely matters. CNZ getting tagged by multiple rails here. By no means is this over. He has to show so much respect. Oh no, that's not a trade. You know Xron was praying for them to trade that one off, but we're going into a sudden death. Xron is in a great position when it comes to stack though, but that frag not being a trade may be the heartbreaker. We'll find out. Here we go.
Oh. That ended up going about as well as it could for Xron, because that could have backfired so easily. It's the same thing that I was discussing after map 1 and 2. Xron just kinda throwing away some very risky plays, giving his opponent a frag for free essentially, when there was no reason for him to be there. He could have just backed right up, went through the teleporter, held that down for another few seconds, but instead he just jumps onto the Mega against a dual-wielding BJ with rockets. Such a risky play. But luckily for him, things turned out okay at the very end.
I mean, if you're a Xron fan, you're probably nervous right now, right? You're shaking a little bit because just the way that map went, it was CND's map for so much of it. And Xron playing that kind of game of resources near the end. It was all about just keeping that stack really high, hitting the shots that he absolutely had to. And that one rail, the rail right here, there was so much riding on that one shot with like the 1 minute left to go. And the fact that that map was the relegation map if he lost it. And oh man, so many times, Flea, that could have gone CNZ's way. I'm going to 3-0, but Barely, by the inch, the smallest inch, he lives to fight another day. And we have potentially 2 more maps left to go. We'll see.
I mean, Xron has got an enormous uphill battle ahead of him, though. He's down 2 maps. He has to win every single one for the remainder of this matchup if he wants to stay in the Quake Pro League. 33% Rocket, 39 Railgun, and 44 LG. LG, the best one of the bunch. Kind of to be expected from Xron. I feel like LG has always been a weapon that he's been extremely strong with, whereas he's not really known for his rails or rockets, but nevertheless, a good play. 5 frags, 4 deaths, really did come down to the wire, that one final engagement. GG for Xron, but here we are about to jump into the next map, and this is going to be a different story altogether. Heavy versus heavy on Veil. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if we're ever going to have a map where you see heavy versus heavy, Veil is absolutely the one you would likely see it on. It's all about that ability to refrag. But then we can't just look at the champion lineup. So Xron, the one thing about him kind of pushing himself around corners and being over-aggressive is because when the time comes to fight, Xron can be very talented with just general combat skill. And if you have Keel on Veil and you have like just excellent grenade accuracy and you're not afraid, you know, to push when you feel like the time is right to push, Keel can be a great champion for that. Going up against Sorlak, though, I mean, there's going to be huge emphasis on trying to get frags and taking basically as little damage as possible. And that's the staple for a map like this. Hard to call, to be honest with you. And it's just Xron, there's that one lifeline he's been given, you know, where he kind of stole that map away at the last second. He's in a tricky position now where the reverse 3-0, like it's all you have to do. It's all you can do. Not the easiest ask in the world against someone like CNZ, but with how he recovered and the clutch he demonstrated on Molten Falls, it could totally happen. And I think now we can no longer count him out after that.
Absolutely not. I don't think anyone could ever count out a player of Xron's just absolute caliber. But still, an uphill battle to be sure. 2-1 is the current score, with CNZ leading by 1 map as we jump into Veil. Xron immediately an aggressive push, getting himself LG and rockets. He's just gonna brave through the pain of the poison. Can he do some more damage? He's wise not to show his face right there. Didn't have Railgun yet, whereas his opponent did, so making the peek right there could have easily ended his life.
An absolute ton of the small resources, though, have just been removed from the map. Does have the potential rail shot there, but it's going to get taken away. The fight took just long enough to allow these items to spawn. Heavy's going to go in the favor of CNZ. Xron hears that, so now at the very least he's going to have some timing. He's going to be aggressive again. And you notice how often Keel players, I love the way they do rocket and grenade pretty much simultaneously. The burst that comes from one successful shot can really add up. And it also means you don't really have to alter your crosshair too much to get the kind of double shot. However, he's going to get pinned down and finished off all the same. CNZ, he's weak though, and he's having to return to those light pickups again. But this is exactly what we're talking about. The Xron going in for a lot of rails, but he misses the shots. CNZ was arguably in the worst position there, especially when you factor in his lack of resources, but he somehow manages to steal it away.
How? How? Xron somehow just, he got frozen in place with that LG push, but CNZ, he heard the most dreaded noise in all of Quake, the click, the low or out of ammo warning rather. And it ended up giving Xron a perfect opportunity to not just steal heavy, but also tie the frags right back up. Mega will be going to CNZ. There's around 5 seconds left before heavy. Xron, he's got the low ground, has to back up. This could be an opportunity for the Estonian player, but damn, out come the pineapples and the rockets. CNZ too aggressive, trying to force his way through one of the worst choke points on the map, and Xron just absolutely annihilating him in place. Well done.
With how slow and reserved the other maps have been, it is always somewhat refreshing to just see the nature of Veil with 2 heavies where you know this is going to be just a brawl fest. These guys are going to go in swinging all the way through, and it's just about trying to just maintain that momentum. But Xron, incredibly weak now, and quite a large target, so the rail is something to worry about too. Likely to be a teleport through? No, CNZ's not going to push too hard just yet, but Xron, look how weak he is, 29 HP on this map. That may as well be 1 HP.
Xron does find himself a small armor down below at the acid. Of course, we can't lose sight of the fact that Sorlek does not take any damage from the acid on the map whatsoever, so that gives her that tiny extra bit of freedom of movement. Xron has to be a little bit more reserved. Decent amount of damage coming through. He has been poisoned, though. Takes him quite a while to find that bubble. CNC is pouncing on him, takes the 50 damage to the face, and there we go, almost the moment that I call him. Xron, such a bad position, unable to land even a single point of additional damage as he goes down again.
I was more worried that Xron was going to die to the acid.
Yep.
How
Thought the exact same thing.
Mega's going to get soaked up though by CNZ. Maintaining a huge amount of presence. Thankfully, due to the nature of Keel, even though it doesn't really matter there, Xron is kind of allowed to be a little bit more rail happy than he otherwise would be. It's all because, you know, during that downtime between rail shots, you can fire those pineapples off in between. Keel is not a sitting duck if he shoots a rail. Even if it misses or hits or whatever it is, doesn't matter. But, yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Saw that one coming from a mile away, straight to CNC's face. But Xron is gonna need to do a lot more damage than just that, because the Mega has been taken by the thick lizard. Heavy will be picked up by Xron though. CNC almost frozen in place, rockets flying around his face. But he does manage to dodge most of the damage by hopping through the teleporter. Now Xron is the one with the better stack, but I don't think he's got all the weapons yet. CNC, nice, setting up a little bit of a secret, sneaky trap right there, ready with the teleporter to his back to get out. And that's another bad rail to take. Xron, can he make anything of this? Will he push? Looks like he's favoring the items instead, going for heavy. Or no, rather just waiting a slight delay. Now he's pushing in. But the rockets, that's not how Xron saw that going. I'm sure of that. He might lose out on heavy here too, yeah.
The nature of the chunky champions, these heavy champions and their massive stack, if you spawn near just even one weapon that is useful, it's like, okay, let's go for the fight. And like you said, Xron probably didn't expect it going that way. It's why when you go for these fights, they can be very all in, but you got to be so careful to avoid incoming damage. You know, that's definitely easier said than done, but you can see the consequences that just because you get, even in CNZ's position, depending on the spawn side, Xron's going to get LG. But here, you know, CNZ, he has to show a lot of respect, because if he gets tagged, look at the stack difference. Xron only just spawned, and here we are.
That is, of course, the nature of playing against the heavy champion, right? You have such an incredible amount of base stack that it can really turn things into your favor. If a fight doesn't work out, you can very often go for a refrag, especially on a smaller map like Vale. It will be Xron again picking up Mega. He's 2 frags down, but he's definitely outstacking his opponent by a significant margin. CNC raining down the rockets. The spit will connect as well. Xron has to run for a bubble. The Estonian definitely got the better of that engagement. Can Xron find the LG he needs? Okay, or the rail. Works just as well, right? Quick flick to finish off his opponent. He's going in for even more. CNZ. This should be a frag for Xron and a beautiful rail to tie it up.
And the second he sees that spawn, he knows he has a pretty big indicator that he can go in too, because realistically, what was CNZ going to spawn near that can prevent the chase? Didn't spawn near rail, didn't spawn near LG. There's rail. Hang on a minute, look at that momentum. We sometimes talk about the base stack, but now he knows again, CNZ, he's only just collected the rocket launcher.
God.
So who cares about incoming damage until he reaches the rocket launcher? 2 great frags, and again, an opportunity for Xron. 2 clean frags back to back. Been able to snatch away that lead in the blink of an eye. And remember, he needs to win this map. It's the only way he's going to stay alive in this series. He cannot give up one more, otherwise he is out of the Quake Pro League and has to potentially... Oh no, CNC drops down on him. There is so much pressure in these final 3 minutes. Xron, hopefully he can rise to the occasion, you would think.
I hope so too. He at least lands a good opening rail. Another one. CNZ has to back away. Mega's about to spawn. Xron has got so little to work with. This is such an aggressive push. He still has the lead. He should not have done that. Far too aggressive. Should have retreated, maybe land a sneaky shot, get himself some stack. But instead he pushed in, hoping that that shot would kill. But CNZ by that time had already stacked up nicely. And another frag added to his name. 9-8, and Xron is just relentlessly pushing. Okay, that works. That works. He's got 8 points of health, so
I was looking at 8 seconds respawn on Mega too. It's likely CNG. Oh, he's going to look to re-aggress. And he certainly did. That was, I think we all felt that one. But in Xron's position, taking a ton of damage. It's pretty close to cool, but Xron obviously re-establishing the position here. The rail downtime might actually be the death sentence. We have to get that heavy and shut it away from CNZ. Cannot allow him to get anything back. Xron has a good stack. CNZ soaked up a whole bunch of those small pickups. Man, this is so closely. Part of me can't even watch it. It's just so close.
It's so important for Xron right now that he doesn't overextend or throw anything away. He's got the rotation on the major items. He's got plenty of time to work with. 1 frag, 2 minutes, all the time he could need, but he puts himself in such a risky situation. It will pay off though. Heavy is about to spawn, but with 23 points of health, 1 rail will still end him. He's got to make a run for it. He can't stick around with this little stack. Xron, once again, a frag in the lead, is just going to look for even more damage. Why? The poison, the poison. He just barely survives and lands the clutch rail. Xron, 2 frags in the lead with a minute left to go. This is looking solid for the Ukrainian.
A great time to get the frag too, with Mega just about to spawn. So Xron, at least he was in a position to get even more of that damage, but he's going back into the defensive play. The rockets are so good from TNZ, who has plenty of time to tie things up. Both players with at least 10 frags. Yeah, love to see it. We said these players would go in swinging, and swing they have. There's only 40 seconds left on the clock. CNZ, that's enough time for him to get 1 more frag. He's going to go for the, even now, the optimization, deny the lights, shut it away. The lights are such a common source of players just recharging the batteries on a map like this, but look at the stack. Look at the stack fleet. He's going in full speed ahead, but the defensive shots from Xron are good, but not quite good enough. Oh, the rocket!
Oh! How? The long-range precise rocket will clear things up, and with just 10 seconds to go, is this going to be Xron's victory? The rockets are beautiful, and the trade will secure the Ukrainian. The comeback tying things up 2-2. Xron, he still has some fight left in him, and he is making it work.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into a final map. Straight off of the back of that one, this is absolutely ridiculous. Xron, we were talking about him in the first set of maps, and it almost didn't seem like his heart was in it. It almost felt like being in the middle of Molten Falls, that kind of spark was lit up, and here he is all the way through, and by no means is this an easy task. He is having to fight tooth and nail to the very end all the way, and he's been able to bring it to this final map situation. On a map like there, I mean, it's non-stop. It's a million miles an hour from the start to finish. And there is this element that perhaps that does give Xron somewhat of an advantage when we have a map that forces a lot of fights, where you can be extremely aggressive. The refrags are as popular as they are. That kind of slow and calculated style that CNZ has been really kind of ruling over Xron the entire time, it just naturally won't work on a map like this.
Absolutely, but I have to say I'm still somewhat concerned for Xron, even if he does have momentum in his favor, and that is just because so many of these fights could have gone either way, right? This ultimately was a pretty close win. So many close engagements ending with Xron at 30 points of health, 20 points of health, even less than that, and that really could have just one slightly better rocket on CNZ's and could have changed the entire thing. Towards the end, Xron did win, but I still saw so many engagements like the one we're watching right now. Here he is, 6 points of health, 20 points of health, going for the rail with 29 health. That could have so easily backfired on him if he just missed that one shot. So I'm still concerned that he might be putting himself too far out there, too aggressively, and that it might backfire and cost him a lot of unnecessary losses.
Entirely dependent on this final map, and man, this is going to be... I mean, we're down into, alternatively, which we always have to talk about in the nature of these best-of-5 scenarios, that the champion pool gets quite dry, right? We start to lose options and players that would normally go with their kind of traditional picks, the stuff you grow to expect them and the stuff that they're comfortable on or they like it on a map or whatever it might be. The second we go on to the decider, there's always the potential that the champion pool has run quite thin. So some of the players are now in a position where they have to pick champions they otherwise wouldn't have if it was a first choice. And
yeah,
that leads me on to looking at the background, it should by all accounts be Death Knight versus Athena. You very rarely see someone pick Death Knight because it's what they want.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of players are having to go with Death Knight because he's just all like the best that is left of what you have left.
And
If there
that's
even is
absolutely
anything.
the case here. Yeah, that's just exactly what happened right here. Kron picked Death Knight because it's basically the only decent champion he feels he can pick to counter the Athena. And it's going to be a difficult one for sure, because yes, there are a lot of good opportunities where you can use the flames on Blood Run, probably more than majority of the maps in the pool. But on the other hand, it's a very vertical map, a lot of long, straight, narrow hallways, such as we see down towards Mega, where Athena can get so much speed horizontally, but also just hook herself straight up towards heavy. So that gives her so much freedom of movement to avoid those flames, and that might make it difficult for a slower champion such as Death Knight to make anything happen. And as we are about to jump into this final map, I also want to reiterate for the people that have just joined us, this is the deciding map of the relegation game, the last relegation game for EU today. Whoever wins this map will stay or enter the Quake Pro League, whereas the other one will drop out and have to try again through challengers just to have a shot at competing again.
It's worth mentioning, I believe there was a bit of a mishmash with the picks and bans because in the lobby it's CNZ with the Death Knight and Xron with the Athena.
Oh.
So if that is the case, Xron might have been dealt somewhat of a blessing in this regard. I must admit, I've not seen heaps of Xron using this champion, but it's always safe to assume he can play all of them because Xron was always one of those players that when a new champion would come out or whatever it is, he was not shy to just grind it out and play, you know, play the board. So I definitely wouldn't say that experience is going to be an issue here, not at this level of play, but all the same, we might see a pretty significant matchup on our hands. The relegation nature that you mentioned, that there's so much pressure on this one final map. It's insane, but very exciting, Flea.
Yeah, and we've seen what this kind of pressure can do to players, right? We've seen a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes being made at this high level of play for players who are about to drop out or enter the Pro League. So let's hope that the nerves don't get the better of these players, as we are on Kron's perspective, landing a nice little rail. Of course, it's important to keep in mind Kron does have that small squishy champion to play with, so his base stack will be lower than Death Knight's, but of course he has the mobility to counter that as well.
I'm just very curious. CNZ is ready, and I do love that use of the Flame Strike to kind of just add the added layer of discomfort to the heavy. Just being able to create just any source of damage you can to either add to the burst of springing a trap or just having that damage over time. It's really not a bad shout at all. Ooh, that's a good rail. CNZ. The funny thing is, if we look at the matchup with the two champions, it's always very easy to go, Death Knight isn't as common in a lot of instances, so perhaps there's going to be a disadvantage here, but this is still the nature of CNZ versus Xron. If CNZ is keeping that highly defensive style and can spring a single trap, how much damage is that Flame Strike going to add to a successful ambush?
I love the play from Kron right there. The drop down, waiting that his opponent below has LG, but he timed it so perfectly that he knew that CNZ just went for something else, switched away off that weapon, and then tried to run. So Kron just had the perfect opportunity to drop down and do so much damage. Very high risk-reward play, and he's going to net him not one, but two frags in a row. And this is exactly what I was hoping to see out of Kron. Getting that early lead, and the LG is just brutal. Will he push through the teleporter? Decides against doing so, perhaps indeed for the best, because that's risky. Wow.
I mean, best of both worlds. You're able to establish control, you got timing on the Mega. You know that CNZ has very little to kind of recover with. So he gets the frag, shuts down those lights. Should CNZ go back there anytime soon? Misses the rail. Okay, that might actually be a blessing in disguise for CNZ, who uses that as the absolute go-ahead to be as aggressive as he can be. He's able to re-establish a little bit here. It took just long enough. He should be able to get this Mega, but yeah, he's got to be careful. Bron's going to pepper it down. Beautiful tri-bolt call out. CNZ walking into pretty much the entire thing right there.
Yeah. And that was one of the unnecessary frag losses that I was talking about. Kron did not have to just barrel down that hallway against an LG with a railgun. There was no reason for him to do so with 3 frags in the lead, but still he was hoping to capitalize off of his momentum just a little bit more, and it ended up costing him a frag that he absolutely had no reason to give up. And that's a beautiful rocket as well. CNZ messing up the rocket through the grate and dealing a substantial amount of self-damage. And right now he's clinging on. 17 points of health left. Just about anything will kill him instantly. And Xron, of course, is looking to seal the deal right here.
And it's insane how costly one execution error can be. Just how far behind it seems to put CNZ in this position. He's had to slow down the pace, and he's had no choice but to concede full control to Xron. Any control that existed before is now gone. But actually not a bad chunk of damage there for CNZ. Signs of life still. Had the rail angle, but quite hit the shot. The mobility on Athena is always going to be tricky, but a great entry rocket and a rail to continue. Only just is Xron not railable at this health he's currently working with. The heavy's in play. Is he going to take the risk? DNZ gets a bit of damage. A lot of pressure. Xron missing those rockets from above. And he takes a ton of LG damage in the process. Forced onto the back foot now, CNZ. Mega in hand. 17 seconds until the heavy. There's enough of a delay in between the 2 items that if someone's maintaining that control, they can cycle the 2 of them. But cycling it is not what they want. CNZ is trying to be aggressive. Get that damage on deck again. And he's going to continue the pressure. Laying it on thick. Xron trying desperately to get away, but the chase, CNZ never stops.
That was just a relentless tracking right there, just chasing Xron down until he had no hooks, no rails left to dish out anymore. And that is going to put CNZ in a really advantageous position. He's got a lot of stack to work with. He's only 1 frag behind, still a lot of time left on the clock, so he has no need to rush for anything. Meanwhile, Xron, can he continue playing perhaps a bit more of a defensive game, run down the clock, deal the damage where he has to, and then steal and run away with an item or 2? Heavy will be going towards CNZ. He's just going to drop straight down for Mega. Xron nowhere around to contest for it. And that's going to mean that the Estonian is putting another cycle, yet one more rotation of major items to his name.
It's all about the long game on Blood Run. Something CNZ will be pretty damn experienced at. That Flame Strike, I feel like almost at least 2 of those 3 shots on Flame Strike were inches away from connecting, which would have been very painful for Xron, looking at the fact that still out of armor, and the no armor means he really can't go in there and fight. If he takes a single point of damage, that's going to be information for CNZ. He's got full control. The full rotation comes through for another time. He's been aggressive. Rocket jumps, but he can't quite get the angle. Looking for it though. Xron on the back foot. Going through the teleporter, maybe a little bit too soon. CNZ had the read. But there's that grappling hook. It's so hard to chase her down, and there is always going to be that element of mobility that Death Knight just simply does not have.
And that might very well end up being the deciding factor in this matchup. CNZ faking the rocket jump. Xron, is he going to go the wrong way? Can CNZ catch him? I like the decision. Shotgun's coming through. Xron, can he make it out? He's got around 20 points of health left. CNZ trying to chase him down, but Xron using the hook expertly.
Oh, he's so close.
To escape.
Looking for a rail shot. Gets the shot. Ready for the angle, and Xron is so weak at this stage, even with this armor. The SSG. It took a long time to get the frag, but got it, he did. Heavy's now in play. Should be an easy pickup. Xron fresh off the spawn. Nothing he can do to shut down these items. Even though he spawned near Rocket, what's he going to do from that far away? Nothing. He has no options to chase that one down. A little bit of an unfortunate Rocket miss. Could have been a bit more damage. The Flame Strike's going to go down. Xron all in, and I can only assume the play there to try and get maybe a direct and then get some sort of presence off spawn, perhaps, but I'm really not sure. I fear that he's stuck around too long, because just look at the string of momentum, and again, for another time, perfectly timed for a free heavy, and all he's going to have is a rocket. He has picked up the LG, but not before a ton of damage comes through. The Mega's going to get picked up, putting CNZ in another fantastic position, and for the last, 3 minutes, Flea, it's just been everything that could have gone right for CNZ has gone right.
Yeah, Xron dropping a lot of frags right now, but this really just shows how good CNC's fundamentals are, because chasing your opponent down on Blood Run is always difficult given how much of a defensive map it is, but try doing that when you're at Death Knight and you're chasing an Athena. It is so incredibly difficult to do, yet nevertheless CNC had the reads, he had the strategies, and he caught Xron time and time again. And now 1 rail, 2 rail, DLG will finish it off, and this might just be what seals the deal for Xron. He's gonna call GG with 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock, and he's gonna leave the match. That's gonna be it.
Okay, that's definitely, I think the first time I've seen a premature map ending. It's always fair to assume that later on, that there's always the is it possible, the nature of a map like Blood Run with just how fast CNZ was able to establish. You can always assume that, maybe, but at the end of the day, if Ron felt like there was, I mean, with how quickly the frags were going and the fact that there was the kind of instant GG well played, it's fair to assume that he was probably getting bothered by those final frags. You can likely assume. Not worth dwelling on that too much. What we are going to focus on is the fact that CNZ, up until the final moment, held it together.